Hello and welcome to today's video as we start the LCK portion of these preview videos, trying to get the LCK done and LCP or APAC done by, mid next week, late next week, because we're finding out that the season's going to start on the 12th with the LPL. So, got to get these videos out, get some more, um, you know, preseason content done, prediction, way too early Worlds predictions. Um, predictions for each region. So we're going to be pounding out content, and maybe some of it will overflow onto the beginning of the LPL season because I am not going to probably be doing the daily roundup videos. I'm going to try and avoid it this year because in the past those just haven't worked. In this format, I think that they would work in a if I was doing this full time and not anything else, but that's just not the way it goes. So um, yeah, now to this video. FearX, BNK is the sponsor, but FearX last year made their debut, replacing Live Sandbox. I don't recall if it was a rebrand or a complete replacement. Regardless, they finished sixth, which is about where Sandbox had been finishing at the time. And this year, I have them ranked seventh based on stats. I think that is the ceiling, though, and I'll get into why. There are some nice pieces on this team, but also there's limitations. So, in top lane, we have Clear. At times last year, Clear was very good, but when we look at the entirety of the season, he was ranked seventh. Based on the stat line I have here of a 2.5 KDA, 57.7 KP, 8.3 CS per minute. That's pretty good. He was a rookie last year, I believe. And like I said, as the season went along, he got better, but this is the whole season in one sample. Point 0.2 share differential, 1.27 ROI. So positive in the damage department, not only for his team, but in general. Down only 90 gold at 15 minutes, over 3 vision per ward placed, which is good. 16 champions, 91 games, 22 years old. Kesante, Nar, and Renekton account for just under half of his games played. Now, going forward, I'm not going to do in the past, I used to do every player that was on an LCK roster, and I doubt everybody is going to be quite like FearX's prospect pool is. But FearX have like a ton of prospects in some of these roles. So going forward, I'm going to max out at 3. I tried to do the whole thing, and it was taking up too much of the board. So we have Saboro behind Clear. I think Saboro had been on maybe OK Bro in an academy role, as well as FearX and Live Sandbox. 2.8 KDA, 55.4 KP, 7.8 CS per minute, also a positive 0.3 share differential. 1.38 ROI, up 245 gold to 15 minutes. So he's showing he's better than the competition. Maybe we look at him as a possible import for an ERL team. 2.74 vision efficiency, 13 champions, 50 games. There's also Guardian and Province who play on Academy. So, actually, Saboro plays on Challenger. These guys play in Academy. Guardian, 3.9 KDA, 56.5 KP, 7.4 CS per minute, 1.53 ROI. 10 champions, 38 games. Province had a 2.7 KDA, 50.2 KP, 7 CS per minute, 1.4 ROI, and only 4 champions played in 18 games. I mean, when we get into Academy, the players could be as young as 16, 15 years old. So that's just the way it goes. In the jungle is Raptor. Based on his summer stats, he ranks second, but we also have to keep in mind, this is the part where I say this is the ceiling for them, because Raptor is nowhere close to being the second best jungler in the LCK. The summer stat line is obviously going to boost him because the summer stat line, summer meta for the jungle is carry oriented. So he's going to have great numbers because of that. In theory, I would say he's bottom half LCK jungler. So Raptor 2.9 KDA, 71.6 KP, 5.8 CS per minute when we take the entirety of the year, including 48 LCK games and 47 Challenger games. Still negative 2.4 share differential, which is nice. That's nice to have for a player that, did have half his games in the LCK, so he did do okay return on investment for his team. 1.21 ROI in general was good for himself, efficient. Negative 50 gold, 4.25 vision efficiency, 17 champions, 95 games, 20 years old. He was a rookie as well, so, I mean, I guess it is what it is. He had a solid rookie split. Xinjiao Mao Kai Vai, just under half of his games played. Behind him is Willer. Now, based on Willer's stat line from spring, he'd be 8th. It's the opposite. So, most people had a summer meta to boost their stats, where Willer did not. And when we actually look at Willer's stat line, when we include the Challengers games, it's much better than Raptors, which is just an indication of how good Willer is. And obviously, I was the guy that had Willer as one of my All-Pros in LCK after spring. I still think he's a very, very good player. There is no reason why he should not be the starter on this team. But for some reason, nobody wanted to buy him out either, which I think is insane. He would have probably been really cheap, I imagine, for a Western team. 3.9 KDA, 71.6 KP, 6.7 CS per minute. What ranked him 8th was the 43 games from spring. This stat line includes 43 games from spring and 50 games from summer and Challengers. Negative 3.3 share differential, 1.08 ROI, so efficient by all things considered, pretty average in terms of efficiency for your team out of the jungle role. And efficiency-wise as a player, he was all right. But up 225 gold at 15 minutes, so is showing that he can get ahead of his opponents. 3.7 vision efficiency, 21 champions in 93 games. There's also Bonnie. Bonnie has played, I think he played with FPX or was going to play with FPX last season or in 2023. He didn't play at all last year. But I'm trying to recall if FPX signed him last year, if they signed him in 2023. Excuse me, I think they did in 2023. And Moan and Milky Way was last year's. Moan with Milky Way, not Bonnie. So yeah, Bonnie, 2023. And then last year didn't play at all. Harry's, 3.7 KDA, 65 KP, 6.4 CS per minute. You want more activity out of your jungler. Your jungler should be the one driving play. Not necessarily the case with this guy. 1.18 ROI, 11 champions, 38 games. It's academy. Earn a promotion is what you got to do, and that stat line just isn't doing it for me. So Vikla in mid played with Rare Adam last year in the LPL after playing with FlyQuest the year before, with KT in 2022. And looked good in his rookie year. And he's still a very young player at 21 years old. Ranks 6th going into this season based on that stat line from last year in the LPL. 3.8 KDA, 70.5 KP, 8.8 CS per minute. All pretty standard average numbers. 5.8 share differential is indicative of how bad Rare Adam were, that Vikla was providing a high damage share relative to gold share for his team. 1.58 damage divided by gold. Down only 165 gold at 15 minutes in summer. 2.83 vision efficiency in summer as well. 14 champions in 82 games. You'd like a bigger champion pool. Wei Corky Tristana, 37% of his champion usage. Now see what I did there? 14 champions in 82 games. You'd like a wider champion pool. And I go through the rest of the board here. And then you got to think to yourself, Wei Corky Tristana account for 37% of his games. So he's not really keying on a couple champions within that 14. It's spread more out. It's harder to prepare for a player that spreads out their champion pool. And I was talking to somebody about this, about Team Liquid and Impact, because I had Impact ranked 4th in LTA North. And they were like, well, this and that, he's playing weak side champions. Can we blame him for playing K'Sante 33 times? Yeah, I can. Because the win rate on K'Sante was 55%, but the win rate on Team Liquid in general for Impact was 62%. And you can say, well, you don't use win rate as a player stat. No, I don't. I use it as a team stat. So the team continued to pick Impact K'Sante because he's weak side, and K'Sante is usually OP. But the fact of the matter is, the team was actually worse when he was picking K'Sante compared to, they did not play around K'Sante as well as they would have played around everything else that he was playing in its entirety. Of course, there are going to be some champions where he had a 20% win rate or something, but you should get my point with how I'm describing that. Behind Vikla is Daystar. Daystar returning to Korea last year after being in OS for a little while. And he did okay. 3.3 KDA, 64.1 KP, 8.9 CS per minute. Was efficient in terms of damage, 5.3 share differential, and a 1.75 ROI. Probably because his CS was below 9. He was able to deal a better efficiency in terms of damage because, hell, if you're not getting as much gold and you're getting a almost similar amount of damage as other players, I mean, damage divided by gold is going to be better. Down 160 gold at 15 minutes. A 2.56 vision efficiency is kind of bad. 22 champions, 97 games. Sid is in Academy. 3.9 KDA, 66.3 KP, 8.2 CS per minute. But a 1.9 ROI, 8.2 CS per minute, lower gold. Decent amount of damage, maybe 750 or something, and that's going to result in a high ROI. But that's good because who else is getting the rest of the gold, right? Maybe he's sacrificing gold to the top lane, or maybe he's sacrificing it to the AD carry. 11 champions, 38 games. Now, the star of this roster is Diable. I've been talking about Diable for a couple years now. He's old enough to play in the LCK at 17 years old, but this is similar to the Kalist thing. Hopefully he is given grace. He could completely flame out this season, and that should not hurt his prospects going forward. He's a very, very good player. Like, he is cracked. So, just going to give him time, develop. If he's better tomorrow than today, next week compared to this week, that's what's important. It's not, I am afraid of people comparing him to Pays off the rip because Pays was so young, but Genji was a much better fucking team than this one. So, anybody that does that is pretty foolish. 3.3 KDA, 73 KP, 9.1 CS per minute. So, obviously, FearX's Challengers team fought around him, which is smart. 3 out of every 4 kills. Excuse me. 4.8 share efficiency, 1.73 ROI. When we look at this team's share efficiency, there is a lot of carry threat. I mean, you got 10.6 between the 2 carries, 10.8 when you add in clear, and then, hell, you got almost a 3.5 or so share potential. So if Diable can repeat his performance at this level of play in the share department, there's enough carry threat there out of the gold that he receives. 1.73 ROI, 210 gold ahead. And when we do the math there, this team is slightly behind at 15 minutes. I would say about, we got 200, 250, 340, 130 gold at 15 minutes. 2.8 vision efficiency, 15 champions, 97 games, 17 years old. Zeri Azrael Varus, 39% of his champion pool, which is very good. Behind him is Envy. Envy was the starter with this team a couple years back. Played with, I believe, LGD last year. No, played with Breon last year. Sorry. Played with LGD the year before. This stat line ranks him 8th. And 3 of the games are in Challenger out of 67. Had a 2.1 KDA, 64.1 KP, 9.1 CS per minute. Bro were not fighting around the bot side, and when they did, Envy died. Or Envy died before the fight even really got underway. My thoughts on Bro are pretty clear. 5.1 share differential, 1.54 ROI. He was giving his team quite a bit on the share department, which is indicative of how passive that team usually is. Down 370 gold at 15 minutes, 2.72 vision efficiency, 15 champions, 67 games. Mudai, 3.9 KDA, 64.1 KP, 8.7 CS per minute. 1.6 ROI, 10 champions, 33 games. It's smart to have Envy there in case Diable does struggle. They do have a veteran that they can put in the lineup. Kellen at support. One of the more maligned supports because the last couple of years he's been benched. 2023 by Bible and last year by Moham. Kellen is one of the best supports in the LCK. He's definitely upper half, and in the world I would say top dozen at this point. Maybe he dropped off a bit from where I've had him before, but top dozen is fair. Every time someone says that he's bad, I try and challenge them on, tell me who's better. There are 50 starting supports. Are you really going to be able to name a dozen that are better than Kellen? Usually they go silent because, when push comes to shove, we just say stupid shit and can't back it up. So that is a thing. But Kellen, 3.6 KDA, 72 KP, negative 5.1 share differential, and 0.77 ROI. So Kellen, with D plus last year, aiming was MVP. In my opinion, should have been MVP without a doubt. And aiming and Kellen were very good. Kellen's been good with Duck Dom. Kellen's been good with anybody he's been put with Daft. Kellen is very freaking good. It's just laning wise, that's like the rest of the game after the laning phase is the problem. There's no shot caller in D plus or DK. Barrel was that. Barrel left and Canyon didn't take on that role, which he should have. He should have. He's the jungler. It's either jungler or support should be taking on that role. There's a handful of mid laners that do it, and usually it's because of their veterancy that ends up doing that. And the fact of the matter is, Kellen just, that's a part of his game he has not really gotten under control. And honestly, that's a coaching issue too. Coaches need to that's your job. So that's a problem too. Negative 35 gold share, negative 35 gold at 15 minutes. I mean, even. 1.7 vision efficiency, 20 champions, 90 games, ranked 4th last season. He's 23 years old. Renata Nami Rakan, 44% of his champion usage. Career is behind him. I think he played with DRX last year in the challenger scene. 3.6 KDA, 75.2 KP. Very active. 3 out of every 4 kills for a team. That's a good sign out of your support. Negative 3.2 share differential and a positive 1.09 ROI out of a support. That is high. That's because of the Senna games. He played 7 Senna games last season. But hey, if he's got a good Senna, that frees things up. We've seen some teams go double 80 carry bot lanes, and maybe Career can offer that threat. 10 gold ahead, 2.1 vision efficiency, 17 champions, 44 games, 2J2, 3.3 KDA, 69.4 KP, also a 1.18 ROI, very aggressive support, 14 champions, 38 games. Ryu is the coach. Ryu has been the coach for 2 years, 29 and 43 in best of 3s for a 40% win rate, and 2 and 9 in best of 5s and playoffs for an 18% win rate. So this team needs to develop over the season, be better tomorrow than yesterday, better next week than today, and that's kind of the deal. I have them ranked 7th. I think they're probably lower than that. But hell, Diable is an X factor. If he can continue to develop, if the players develop at a higher level, they'll be better than 7th. But I think that'd be, high expectations for this team. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.